So what are some of the risks of buying a short sale? Is a short sale even a good deal? Should first-time buyers be looking at a short sale deal? In general, I've recommended that my first-time buyers steer clear of short sales, and it's because of some of the risks that we're going to talk about in this video. If you're not even sure what we're talking about with short sales, we did a video about what a short sale means, and I'll make sure to link that in the comments section. But starting off, let's look at some of the risk of short sale, the type of person that maybe should look at a short sale, and how to kind of find short sale deals. So first off, what are some of the risks and why do I recommend that first-time buyers typically steer clear of them? The first one is timeline. So a lot of times what I see in my first-time buyers is they're in a situation where they are ready to get into home ownership and they're not looking to extend that time frame, or they're on a set time frame, meaning maybe they're in an apartment and that apartment lease is going to be due, or they need to renew in the next 3 months, or they're in a situation that maybe they'd rather get out of sooner rather than later, like maybe still living with mom and dad, right? And they're looking to get out of that situation. So timeline isn't necessarily something that a lot of my first time buyers are flexible on. And with a short sale, your contract's going to have a timeline in it. However, my experience has been is that a lot of times that timeline ends up getting extended because you're relying on that third party lender approval. The lender of the seller is going to have the ultimate say. So timeline's the number one risk. The number two risk is the as is function. So most short sales, they're going to be on an as is basis, meaning the condition of the property is the condition of the property. They're not going to be doing anything to fix it up. Now, this can be a problem for first time buyers, more specifically because of the loan type. So some of the loan types, VA loan, FHA loan, condition can impact those properties, and it ends up maybe not being the best fit for that short sale and can cause problems on the way to closing. And not only the as-is feature as far as loans, but also, a lot of times first-time buyers are looking to have things handled. They're not looking for a lot of problems. And so they're looking for that turnkey property, right? That's ready to go. I can move in. And so if that's the situation, then a short sale may not be the best for you. The third risk, it's just the possibility of the deal falling through. Now, every deal has the possibility that's going to fall through. However, when we're introducing the seller's lender ultimately having the final say, we're introducing an extra facet that could make the deal fall through. And that, of course, is going to be frustrating for any buyer, but can be especially frustrating for first-time buyers. And if you think you've got a deal as the buyer, your seller thinks they have a deal, but ultimately it's that lender who has the final say, and they can say whether it goes through or not. Now, the fourth risk, that reason that I typically don't recommend that first-time buyers do a short sale, is because maybe it's not a deal, right? And so, yes, it's looked at as a type of distressed property. However, just because it's listed as a short sale does not mean that it's a good deal. And so you have to kind of look at additional factors to find that out. So if those are the risks for buying a short sale, then who is a good candidate for buying a short sale? And that includes if they're a first-time buyer. So the first thing is you've got an extremely flexible timeline. Maybe you're in a lease that it's coming up due, but it will go automatically turn over to a month-to-month. They're not going to ask you to do a 6-month or a 12-month lease renewal. Or you're in a family situation where you're fine where you're at, but when you find your dream home, you'll be ready to move in as soon as you close. And you've got that really flexible time frame. There's no other thing pressuring you to move. The second thing that can make you a good candidate for a short sale is if you're paying cash, all cash, or you are using a loan type that has a lot more flexibility. And so those as-is features aren't really so much of a big deal to you. Additionally, if you're sticking with that as is risk, is if you're really handy and you know that there's going to be some things that need to be fixed up, but you're able to do those fix ups and you're kind of already factoring that in to your offer price, or you have access. So maybe you have a friend who has a construction company or works in construction or is really handy. That can be that way you can do some of the fix ups that are needed on that as is property a lot more affordable. Fourth characteristic of someone who might be a good candidate for a short sale is that they're going to be patient. They're not going to continue looking and be distracted by the next thing that's on the market, because a short sale transaction can take some time to process, and as you're waiting for that approval for a short sale by the lender. Now, there's definitely things that can be done on both the listing side, working with the lender to expedite a short sale that maybe you don't run into that risk, but these risks can exist. All right, finally, what do you want to look for to increase your chances of finding a good deal? And so, what I found is that a short sale that's just brand new to the market, unless the listing agent has done a really good job working with the lender, it may not be a good deal. It might be at market price, because a lot of times the lender is going to have the agent, hey, let's look at the market. What could the property sell for? And then the lender's trying to get as much money as they can. They're already probably going to take a loss on this, so they're trying to get as much as they can. So they may actually start at a little bit above market price. And so what you want to look for, or have your agent look for, is look for properties that are short sales, but maybe they've been on the market for a little while. Maybe they've had a series of price cuts or price drops. So those can be indications of a lender's getting close to being ready to sell, and of course the seller is ready to sell. So if this information's been helpful, look for that video in the comments. If you're not even sure what a short sale is, you can always come back and watch this video about short sales, but that'll tell you the meaning. And also, if you have a question, you can set up a short appointment and ask us that question directly.